any other?
This is right, Arab.
Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Laura Macon-Isherwood, and in this bulletin we'll get you updates on stories developing around the world. First, let's take a quick look at the headlines. The first batch of interpreters, along with their families, are expected to arrive in the US after being evacuated from war-torn Afghanistan. The 2,500 Afghans will now have to complete a special visa process. The Taliban admits murdering Afghanistan's most popular comedian, Nazar Mohammed. The comedian was taken out of his home last week and killed. Hundreds of thousands of people in China's Jiangsu province are back in lockdown, and 41,000 people in Beijing get stay-at-home orders as the country battles its worst COVID-19 outbreak in months. The UK warns the UN Security Council that Myanmar's 54 million people could contract coronavirus within the next 2 weeks. Britain urges the UN to enforce the safe delivery of vaccines to conflict zones in the junta-led country. Japan proposes a state of emergency should remain in place in Tokyo and expanded to include 4 other prefectures, including Osaka. Meanwhile, COVID cases continue to break records there, casting a grim shadow on the Summer Games. World number 1 Novak Djokovic's bid for the unprecedented Golden Slam of men's tennis is over. Germany's Alexander Zverev produces an astonishing comeback to knock the Serbian out in the semi-finals of the Olympic Games. In the latest development from Afghanistan, the Taliban has taken responsibility for the killing of a comedian in the country. Last week, viral videos emerged showing Nazar Mohammed with his hands tied behind his back and sitting between 2 men in a car, being slapped repeatedly. A Taliban spokesperson has claimed that Mohammed was an active policeman and responsible for the deaths of many people. The police refute this claim and say that the comic was never deployed in combat and was more of an entertainer for the checkpoints officers. The terrorists had initially denied they had anything to do with his murder until the videos went viral. Mohammed was popular for his comic routines on social media and was known for his jokes and funny songs.
If Khashazwan deserved to be killed, he should have been put on trial in court. If that was the case, he should have been killed after being tried in court. This killing which has happened is unjustifiable.
Elsewhere, a report by the US-based Washington Examiner has said that Pulitzer Prize-winning Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui was brutally murdered by the Taliban. The report emphasised that Siddiqui was not simply killed in crossfire, as was previously reported. Siddiqui had travelled with an Afghan army team to the Spin Boldak region to cover conflicts there. Siddiqui was hit with shrapnel during an assault with the Taliban. He and his team went to a local mosque for first aid. The report says that when the Taliban got to know that the journalist was at the mosque, they attacked. The brutality of Nazar Mohammed's killing has heightened fears of revenge attacks by the Taliban. This fear has driven thousands of Afghans who worked for the US military to apply for special immigration visas to the United States. The Taliban's offences are also undermining their assurances that no harm would come to people who worked for the government, with the US military or with US organisations. WION's Pakistan Bureau reporter is in Kabul, and he sent us this report earlier.
2 killings
in the past 2 weeks. One that has been claimed by the Taliban, the other that has not been. The one that has been claimed by the Taliban is of Nazar Muhammad Khasha, a very famous comedian over social media. The video clips of him being slapped by 2 Taliban members have gone viral. The Taliban spokesperson has said, or rather claimed, that those who were involved in this act have been arrested and they would be tried because that was against their orders. Khasha was later, after being arrested, was later killed in a more brutal manner. But that was not the first time. Earlier this month, we saw the brutal killing, or rather a heinous killing, of an Indian journalist. The Pulitzer Award winner, Danish Siddiqui, photojournalist associated with Reuters agency, was killed after his convoy was ambushed by the Taliban near Spinbul. The details that now have emerged say that his body, that he was rather targeted and that his bullet-riddled body was returned. The Taliban have not officially claimed it, but the Afghan government maintains that the convoy with which Danish Siddiqui was traveling was indeed ambushed by the Taliban. The security forces right behind me here in Kabul are of the opinion that they would want to fight until their last breath in order to uphold the dignity and sanctity of their nation, and they refuse to give up. Anas Malik in Kabul, Afghanistan, for WION, World is One.
While the turmoil in Afghanistan worsens, the first group of Afghan interpreters have departed from the war-torn country en route to the United States. These people have worked with the US government since 2001, the year the US deployed to Afghanistan. Threats against interpreters have significantly increased since President Biden has started withdrawing troops from Afghan soil. As the Taliban gains more grounds, the fate of these people is becoming uncertain. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that his country is committing to helping and relocating everyone who has assisted their troops in the past 20 years.
The United States is committed to helping those who helped us during our time in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. And indeed, we've had very brave Afghans who have stood with us, with our soldiers, with our diplomats, mostly as translators and interpreters. And as a result of that service, benefit from the possibility of securing a visa.
Around 20,000 Afghan interpreters have applied for evacuation under special immigration visas. It has been decided that they, along with their families, will stay at the Fort Lee Army Base until their visa process is complete. This is not the first time that this kind of transfer has taken place. Since 2008, about 70,000 Afghans have received this special visa and have been resettled in the country. The non-profit organisation No One Left Behind estimates that at least 300 family members of these translators have been killed. As interpreters begin to depart, the United Nations estimates almost half of Afghanistan's 39 million people living in the country are in need of aid. The international community has been asked to maintain financial support for the country, but at the moment a potential humanitarian crisis looms over Afghanistan. Since the February 1st military coup in Myanmar, the country has endured 6 months of conflict and turmoil. The country has witnessed months of unrest, brutality and violence, with thousands of civilians killed in anti-junta protests. 6 months on, the crisis in Myanmar has only worsened. Our next report brings you details of the current state of affairs in the country.
On the morning of February 1st, 2021, a day before the Myanmar Parliament was due to swear in the members elected in 2020 general elections, a coup d'etat began. The military, under Commander-in-Chief General Min Aung Hlaing, took over control and declared a year-long state of emergency. It also declared the general elections results invalid. Leaders of the National League for Democracy, NLD, the party that won the polls, were detained, including State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi. Soon, people took to streets all across the country, demanding restoration of a democratically elected government. But the protests were only met with force, brutality and barbarity. Six months on, the turmoil in Myanmar has only intensified. The country has witnessed widespread violence with over 1,000 people killed and 1,000 more arrested.
We'll move to a federal democratic union. We'll ask for our equality and freedom. That's what we want. These are our goals.
Tens of thousands of civil servants have either been sacked for joining protests or are still on strike. The crisis in the Southeast Asian country has worsened due to a massive coronavirus outbreak, which has left the healthcare system overwhelmed.
The pandemic now has really paused the resistance a little bit, but it has definitely changed the way in which this resistance is happening. I mean, people are far more worried about COVID-19 at the moment.
When the coup began in February, young demonstrators thronged the streets of cities. In Yangon, protesters held regular flash mobs, chanted slogans, and sometimes even set off flares.
Over the past 6 months, the entire community has been united and the 2008 constitution was repealed. We have seen situations where the military has become more visible as a fascist army. We will only be free from the current crisis if we fight till the end and win against these fascists.
The international community, however, has largely remained silent on the matter. United States, European Union and United Kingdom have ramped up sanctions on the junta and businesses linked to the military. The United Nations has imposed a non-binding resolution to prevent the flow of arms in Myanmar. The junta, with the support of Russia and China, looks to have consolidated its position despite the resistance. State leader Aung San Suu Kyi has barely been seen since February 1st. The military placed her under house arrest in the capital, Naypyidaw. She's been slapped with countless charges, including illegally importing walkie-talkies and flouting COVID restrictions. If convicted, she could be in jail for over a decade. The February coup ended Myanmar's decade-old experiment with democracy. The junta claims that it has plans to stage new elections at an unspecified point in the future. Will the Southeast Asian nation witness a restoration of democracy? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Britain's UN ambassador has warned that half of Myanmar's population could be infected with COVID-19 in the next 2 weeks. This comes a day after Myanmar appealed for help to the international community to curb rising coronavirus cases in the country.
The COVID situation is of particular concern. The coup has resulted in a near total collapse of the healthcare system, and healthcare workers are being attacked and arrested. The virus is spreading through the population very fast indeed. By some estimates, in the next 2 weeks, half of the population of Myanmar could be infected with COVID.
Myanmar state media reported this week that the military is looking for greater cooperation with other countries to contain the virus. Infections in Myanmar have surged since June, with close to 5,000 cases and 365 deaths. But medics have put the toll to be much higher than reported. Myanmar's UN ambassador asked the Security Council to establish a UN-led monitoring mechanism to ensure smooth delivery of humanitarian assistance. Myanmar recently received 2 million more Chinese vaccines, but is believed to have only vaccinated around 3.2% of its population. In the Tokyo Olympic Village, more than 80% of people are vaccinated against coronavirus, and movement is stringently curtailed. The same, however, is not true for the city that's hosting the Olympic bubble. In Tokyo, only a fifth of the population has been vaccinated, and despite its fourth lockdown, infections continue to spike to record highs.
In one community, vaccination rates above 80%. In the other, just 26%. In one, compulsory testing. In the other, tests are hard to come by and some are just resigned to catching COVID. Welcome to the Tokyo Olympics, a tale of two cities. Life in the hermetically sealed bubble and outside in the rest of the host city. Here in the Athletes' Village and Press Centre, an experiment in extreme COVID controls. Organisers say it's almost certainly the most tested community anywhere in the world. More than 50,000 athletes, officials and journalists are tested before flying, upon arrival, and then regularly, daily for athletes. So the positivity rate is just 0.02%. Athletes are quarantined if they test positive. Journalists are subject to strict rules and contract tracing. Masks are needed at all times and the sanitizer all over the place. Almudena Rivera Martinez, a reporter for Spain's Marca sports paper, says the restrictions make work difficult.
For example, in our case, we can't go to a part of Tokyo with an athlete because Tokyo is forbidden to us. The Japanese authorities have banned us for 14 days, and the athletes also. We cannot walk around the venues or go straight from one to the other. So it limits our coverage because you can only speak to them in the mixed zone or over the phone. I could have used the phone from Spain.
State of emergency Tokyo, where lockdown fatigue has set in, fourth time around. Bars are meant to close at 8 p.m, but many flout mostly voluntary restrictions. Many Tokyoites say the government pressing ahead with the Olympics made it feel acceptable to go out. In the densely populated Ikebukuro district this week, young people crowd onto outdoor stairs for a makeshift party. Yuka Toma works in the area part-time.
At this point, there's not much to do even if you get coronavirus. I don't want to get infected, but there are many people who can't avoid it. I work in Ikebukuro and I'm also in the customer service industry, so no matter what I do, I'm bound to get it. I started to hang out with others since anyone can get it no matter how hard they try not to.
Tokyo's cases spiked to a record 3,865 on Thursday, from less than 1,000 daily in mid-July, although serious cases and deaths have stayed low. The games are being held with hardly any spectators, and residents are asked to stay home.
As part of our special series, Kashmir Connect, we have been bringing you inspiring stories of the people living in the valley. Up next, we meet Tajamul Islam, the Kashmiri girl who has created history by winning a gold medal in the under-8 category of the World Kickboxing Championship in 2016. And she's still going strong.
9-year-old Kashmiri girl who rules the kickboxing world. Tajamul Islam won the Sub-Junior World Kickboxing Championship in Italy in November. She comes from a village in Bandipur district, 65 kilometers away. This article is from 2016 and there hasn't been much writing about her since then. So I'm gonna go over there and see if I can find her and see if she's still practicing, if she's won anything else since then, and if she still has the fighting spirit. It will be interesting to see.
Tajamul Islam's achievements are an inspiration for the youth in the valley. She's almost like a celebrity here. The adulation she gets is quite something. It's easy to see that other youngsters draw inspiration from her success story.
So if you won the gold medal when you were 6 years old,
yeah.
Then how many years old were you when you started?
Actually, Actually, when I started, I'm 5 years old. When I go in Italy, so it was true. I'm scared that Italy, seriously. Yeah. So yeah, it was a foreign country. So my coach motivate me. You have to be a champ for your country.
Yeah. Everyone seems to know about her. Her kickboxing speed and agility are a sight to behold. She is full of energy, ideas and dreams. Tajamul is the face of the rising kickboxing scene in the valley. She is making just the right kind of noise. She says that the atmosphere in the valley is conducive to sports.
I have my own academy and I'm founder of my academy.
What? Wait, how old are you right now?
I'm 11.
You're 11 years old? Are you kidding? And you have your own academy?
Yeah.
Do you have the name? Do you have your name above
the sports academy.
Yeah. So if I want to come and train in your academy, will you teach me some tricks?
Why not? Yeah.
If you and me were in a challenge, who would win?
I should probably not take her up on a challenge. She is, after all, a national champion. It's time for a kickboxing class.
Okay.
Just turn it a little bit.
More?
If that was right leg, you should take it up. Yeah.
Here.
Up. Take it up like this.
Like that?
Yeah. Like this.
Oh, like you should be light on the back leg.
Who would have thought that I would find a kickboxing champion in a remote corner of Kashmir?
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm not used to getting kicks to my face.
At just 11 years old, she has accomplished more than many adults have in their lifetime. I'm very curious about what the future holds for Tajamul.
What is your plan now? Do you want to be a professional martial artist, or do you want to get a degree? Do you want to become an engineer or a doctor? Or what is you want to be a doctor also? That requires a lot of study though.
Yeah. I know, but I want to become a doctor because मैं उसकी हड्डियाँ तोड़ना भी चाहती हूँ और जोड़ना भी चाहती हूँ.
Hanging between two cliffs in China's Hunan province lives the Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon Glass Bridge. It's a 430-metre glass-bottomed suspension bridge and is an adventure of a lifetime for adrenaline junkies. Visitors to the bridge can take a leap from a height of 260 metres and take in the breathtaking view of the surrounding wilderness. The area, a popular international tourist attraction, is famous for its quartzite sandstone pillars and peaks extending into the clouds, along with deep ravines and gorges. We leave you with this report. Thanks for watching.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Monitoring is one of the highest bungees in the world, and because it's so high, it actually makes it easier. Because when you're jumping off a smaller bridge, your perspective of the closer to the ground is a lot more, and when you're this high, it's kind of like skydiving. The higher you get, the less perspective you have on the high. So I think it's an easy jump for a lot of people.
Four, 3, 2, 1, go! 4, 3, 2, 1, go! This is right, Arab.